Today on Penguin Propaganda, we will go over 7 essential Linux commands and their common usage. Before we get started, if you like this sort of video, please like or subscribe and drop a comment below because it feeds the algorithm. If you're familiar with the Linux terminal, you probably know these commands, so keep in mind this video is for the complete beginner. I'm going to hit on some of the most common use cases, but we'll keep out of the weeds on the more complex concepts. So let's get started. First, you will need to open your terminal application if you'd like to follow along, and I'd recommend you do so. If you don't know how to do this, check your distribution's documentation. 2 commands we will use right away are touch and mkdir. We will be using these commands to create some files and directories to begin the tutorial, so for now just follow along in your terminal. Touch is used from time to time to make a blank file, but most times a Unix user will create a file in an editor like Vim or Nano and just write out what they want in one go. I will not discuss Vim in this video. When we go to edit files, we will use Nano. While I like Vim, I feel its learning curve is too large for a beginner tutorial such as this. All that said, if you just opened your terminal, your system should have put you in your home directory. We can verify this with the command pwd, which means print working directory. Please run that now. It should show your directory as /home/your username. Consider this a bonus command. We won't be going over anything further regarding pwd. We want to create a test directory where we will add and remove files without causing any problems to your system. So let's do that now with the mkdir command. mkdir space test directory. Now let's enter that directory with cd space test directory. Good. Now we can make a couple more folders and files so we can play around with them. To start, let's make 3 more test directories. mkdir space test1 space test2 space test3. As you can see, you can create more than one folder at the same time with mkdir, which can be pretty useful once you get into more advanced jobs when using the terminal. Now you've just learned your first essential Linux command, mkdir, so let's move on. Next up, we'll make a couple of files to play with using the touch command. Touch space test1.txt space test2.txt. This is all we will discuss with touch, a simple command to create a blank file in a directory. You may wonder why this exists. Just know that it does, for reasons. We have now built a decent platform to practice commands, so now the fun begins. You will see me use a command to wipe the terminal and move the cursor back to the top. This command is clear. Just consider this a bonus command. If you have installed your man pages for your distribution, every command we cover has a manual that is built into the terminal that you can read for further information. I will suggest this often throughout the video. If you do not have the man pages installed, I would recommend you pause the video and get this done before moving forward. For instance, to read the manual on mkdir, you can simply type man mkdir. Let's do that now. Once the manual opens, you can navigate up or down with the arrow keys or hit Q at any time to quit. Next up is cd. This means change directory. Let's do some examples. We are in the test directory folder we made earlier, and we see the 2 directories we made as well, test1 and test2. Let's move into test1. cd space test1. We are now in the test1 directory. Let's say we want to move back up to the one we were in before. We can use the double dot option to do this easily. cd space ... As you can see, this moves us up to the prior directory. Now you may also get to your home directory with the tilde option. In Linux, the /tilde location is your home directory, so this takes advantage of that. cd space tilde. Now let's move back into the test directory folder. This is a pretty long name, so a trick you can use in the terminal is the autocomplete option. You may type the beginning of a file or folder and then hit tab to autocomplete. Let's do that now. cd space testd tab. And as you can see, it autocompletes the location for us. This is a pretty handy trick to get around fast, especially if a folder or file has a space in the name or if it's more than a few characters. Remember, it's not lazy, it's efficient. So now that we're in our folder, or directory, however you think of it, let's get a list of the files and folders in that directory. we can use the ls command to perform this function. To start, let's run ls by itself. Just type in ls. This is the basic output of ls. Now let's try a switch, ls-l. This uses long format, which shows permissions of files, whether it's a directory, and if so, how many files are in it, the owner, the group, the file size, last modification or creation date, and finally the file or directory name. A bonus trick we can use with a terminal is the less command. With ls-l, the screen can scroll past where we want to see, and if we are in a virtual terminal, the simple solution is to scroll up and then scroll down to read. If we're in a non-GUI situation, such as when using SSH on a server, that option might not be available. Here is how we use less with ls. Now this works with most commands, by the way. The pipe key is above the enter key as shift / on most keyboards. ls space -l space pipe space less. This will list the data up to the end of the screen and pause. You can then hit spacebar to move to the next batch. When you get to the end section, simply hit Q to quit out. If you want to list all files, including hidden files and directories, you can use the all switch, which is -a. ls space -a. You can combine the long switch with the all switch, like so. ls space -la. There are also ways to sort the files. ls space -t will sort by time. ls space -S will sort by size. ls space -u will sort by access time, useful if you're trying to figure out which file has been accessed last. One common use of ls is ls space -ltr. This will combine the long format with time and sort in reverse order, an easy way to check files by modification time. If you type in man space ls, you will get the manual for list, which gives you all the options for the command. Now, that's if you've installed your man pages. If not, get to it. Let's say we want to list files, sort by file size, we want long format, and we want it in human readable format. Well, we know we want to use L for long format, as we've done that before, but what other switches do we want? Well, scrolling through the manual, we see that H does human readable, and if we go down a bit more, -S will sort by file size. So our command would be ls space -LH There are many other combinations, but these are generally the most used in my experience. Feel free to try out other combinations for your own use. Next up is cp, the copy command. This is used to copy a file or folder from one location to another. Now, you can also use this to overwrite a file, so be careful. Earlier, we made a couple of files using touch, test1.txt and test2.txt. Let's go ahead and edit the test1.txt file with nano. Nano space test1.txt. Now let's just add some text. Test1 will be fine. Hit Ctrl-O to write the file out, and then hit Ctrl-X to exit. Next up, let's do the same for test2.txt, but input test2 this time. We can copy test1.txt to a new file. Let's call it test1_b.txt with the command cp space test1.txt space test1_b.txt. Remember when I mentioned to be careful when using cp? The danger comes with the fact we can overwrite test2.txt with the cp command as well. cp space test1.txt space test2.txt. When we do this, test2.txt is overwritten. We can verify this by opening it in Nano and taking a look. nano space test2.txt. With great power comes great responsibility, yada yada yada. You can also copy to other directories explicitly. cp space test1.txt dot slash test1 slash test2.txt. You can also copy whole directories to new directories with the -R switch, which means recursive. cp space -R space test1 space test2. There are actually quite a few switches for CP, such as -F for force, -I for interactive, -S to create a symbolic link, etc. I'd say if you're just starting out to shy away from most of these until you're more familiar, but you can read all of them with man CP if you'd like. Make sure you've installed that. Next up is mv, the move command. This will move a file from one location to another. You could potentially CP it, then RM the old one, but this does that for you, so why not use it? Do one thing and do it well. mv space test1 underscore b dot txt space dot slash test2. Move will always prompt before overwriting another file of the same name. You can turn this off if you'd like by doing -F to force it not to. There is a nice option called update, which uses -U that moves the file only when the source, the one you're moving, is newer than where it is going or when it isn't in the destination. There are a few more lesser used switches, and you can read that in the man page as well with man mv. I hope you're sensing a pattern here. Now let's go over RM, the remove command. Much like CP, this command is very powerful, so be very careful when using it. This will delete a file or folder depending on what switches you use. You can use wildcards with this, and you can do many other dangerous things, so just make sure you're removing what you want. Remove will not toss your items into a recycle bin. The files are gone and generally unrecoverable. Okay, they can possibly be recovered, but that's beyond the scope here. Let's try it out now. rm space test1.txt. Now this removes test1.txt. If you're following along, let's go ahead and use touch to create two more files again. Touch space test1.txt space test3.txt. Now let's go ahead and remove these files with a wildcard. rm space star.txt. This removed all the .txt files in the directory. The star is called a wildcard and is something I'd consider essential. A wildcard is used to represent a character or many characters in a given command. In this instance, it matched anything with the .txt extension. As always with all commands, you can use man rm to get more information on this command. This sums up the 7 most essential Linux commands video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.